Okay, so welcome back to our series in trigonometric functions. Last video we looked at was looking at the tan function and how it is completely different to the sine and cosine function, where it only has a period of 1 and it has a vertical, it has a y range of infinity. So they're all real numbers. We're going to be looking at changing the period for this video, and the way we change the video is a little bit different to how we would usually change it in terms of sine and cosine. Recall, when it came to changing the period of cosine and sine, we had to do 2 pi over b, but that's because that's how long the whole period was. Where in the period, this one, it's only pi. So in this case, we're just going to do pi divided by b to get the period. However, that's not really enough when it comes to this. Because we're changing the period, we're changing the look of this graph. Is it going to contract or is it going to expand? And whenever we do find a change in terms of the horizontal axis change, we have to record, well, what are the new asymptotes and what are the new x-intercepts? Recall, when we look at this, it goes in that pattern. It goes asymptote, x-intercept, asymptote, x-intercept, asymptote, x-intercept. So let's do an equation, let's do an example today, and we'll using the red pen. So we want to work out what would y equal. Y is equal to tan 2x. Remember, this here is the b value, so that's change in period. So we need to work out, well, what is the new period going to be? So in this case, we would have pi divided by 2, so therefore our period is now pi on 2. So it's going to be half of what this actually is here. Now, when it comes to changing the period, we have a little skill thing that we can use to make sure we get some accuracy here. So the way that we find that is we equate the ends with what our actual existing endpoints are here first. So what I mean by this here is, let's take our period from here, which is 2x, and equate it to positive 2, pi on 2, and then 2x is equal to negative pi on 2. Because we're trying to work out, well, what are the endpoints? Where am I going to start? Where are my horizontal asymptotes going to be now? Because right now, the horizontal asymptotes are negative pi on 2 and pi on 2. And that gives me a period of 1. Well, if you really think about this really clearly, if this here is a period of 1 and I'm halving it, I'm going to have half a period. So on either side, it should be equal. And if I half each of these, I should get pi on 4 on both sides. So let's see if that works. So if we times each side by half, which is the opposite to dividing by 2, we do indeed get pi on 4. And if we do the same thing over here, we do get negative pi on 4. So now we can say with calculations that negative pi on 4 and positive pi on 4 are our new asymptotes. Notice that we're not changing the x-intercept here. So it still comes through the x-intercept, except for it's now going to be narrower. Well, I now need to repeat this. I now need to move pi on 2 across. Well, one thing I can look at this here is I can say, well, I know that if I have half pi here, if I add another quarter pi onto this one here, I'm going to have 3 pi on 4. I add another one onto here, I'm going to get, let's see, what will I get to that one? Well, we're going to leave it because we're only going to go up to pi anyway. And if we go across here, so we've got our horizontal asymptote, x-intercept, horizontal asymptote, so this here should be an x-intercept, horizontal asymptote. So coming through. We come back across here, if we go back another one, we're going to get our another point in terms of negative 3 pi on 4, gives me another horizontal asymptote. So now I can come through here, and you can see that I moved everything over by a half. So this now has moved over to a half. That stays the same because we've still got a half here. This here now has moved over by a half, so it becomes a cross point. So you can see that by putting on the, working out your endpoints and your period is a half now. So pi on 4 plus a half should give me 3 pi on 4. If I add another half to that, or negative pi on 4 adding to pi on, it gives me negative 3 pi on 4. So we can now look at this and say, well, our asymptotes are going to be plus or negative 3 pi on 4 and plus or negative pi on 4. And our x-intercepts are going to be plus or negative pi and plus or negative pi on 2, which you can see with these new red lines. All right, see you in that next video.